Hello and welcome to Super Rugby Round 10 Review Podcast. I'm Paul, the guy behind DrivingMaul, a website, podcast, Twitter account and YouTube channel bringing you the best in rugby predictions and opinion. But this week, to be honest with you, I'm perhaps as unprepared as I've ever been. But that's okay, because I have the man who has watched every single game live with me. It's the one, it's the only Steve. How are you doing, sir?
I'm very, very good. A lot pressured now after hearing that one. But yes, amazingly, I did watch them all, which is not always a good thing, but we'll see how we go.
Absolutely. Yeah, it's always a fantastic thing, surely. But obviously, get on at Cornflakes Crib on Twitter, because then you will get updates during the games of his opinions and stuff, or you can wait until Mondays and get it all here instead. That's the better way. Now, anyway, don't forget to subscribe, favorite podcasting app, all of that lovely, jubbly stuff. 5-star reviews, please. There are other stars available, apparently. But why would you want to do that? And we have had a 5-star review. I should probably go and find it, shouldn't I? I've got an email with it all in and all of that kind of stuff, if I can find it. Here we go. Yes, it was from, where is his name? I'm blank. From Pork Chop. Pork Chop Quinny from Australia. Thank you, mate. It says, great podcast. Listen to every episode. I love it. And yes, why wouldn't you listen to every episode as well and also love it? Because it is great. We are fantastic, aren't we, Steve? Oh,
just tremendous. Only the best.
Exactly. Just say yes. Hey, Christian in the live chat. Great to see you. And of course, if you want to see what happens behind the covers, for those of you listening on the podcast, this is live at 8 p.m. every Monday night on YouTube. So, we kicked off and we watched this one. Well, we did the post-match review together. The Blues versus the Highlanders. Highlanders won this one 16-34. The Blues losing streak against New Zealand teams continues, doesn't it?
Yeah, well, I mean, the Blues are not going to win much this season, are they, really? I mean, they come to this game, many people might have thought the Highlanders could have a bit underestimated them, especially leaving out a player like Aaron Smith and the calibre that he brings to the team. But overall, I guess the Highlanders are really showing a nice little development of players in there. Shannon Frizzell is the man. He was the name of this this whole match too for the Highlanders. So he was really good. But what I found interesting about this game was the stats, which you're probably going to mention quite a bit, so I won't go on too much. But the position, the territory, and the tackles are just phenomenal that the Blues dominated so much of this game, yet come away pretty much empty-handed and not really in this match at all.
Yeah, and the Blues, 70% possession, 72% territory across the whole game. And basically that was because in the first half, particularly, the Highlanders didn't want the ball, did they? They just kicked it back to the Blues. Whenever they got it, they just basically kicked it back to the Blues and just let the Blues mess it up.
Yeah, well, that's the thing with the Highlanders as well. They can get a lead. They had a decent little start. And when you score a try in the first minute, I guess it gives you that comfort to be able to do that as well. And then another one in the fifth. So they're a team that would like to play with the lead, and then they'll put the ball into the other team's court and say, you want to pass this? You want to take the lead? Do it. Do it against us. So they'll back their defence. They back themselves to stop the other side from doing it. So they got that advantage nice and early, which they don't always get. And against the Blues, probably was a bit easier than they would have expected.
Yeah, then charged down for the first try, and then, as you say, they score with pressure. Just to give you an idea as to how little the Blues had to do defensively in this game, 42 tackles tried to make 57, only made 42. So a 74% tackle ratio return, which meant that they missed 15 tackles. Now the Highlanders missed 31 tackles, but, and this is the big but, they had to make 230 tackles in this game.
It's phenomenal.
It's a crazy number. And obviously, they made 199 of those, 87% tackling ratio, so 13% better than the Blues. And that really told in this game. I say the Highlanders weren't actually, yes, they got the easy win, but some of their kicking was a bit too short. They generally liked to have a contestable kick, and quite a few of their kicks in that first half weren't that contestable. I think you could probably tell that Aaron Smith wasn't there. And when he did come on in that second half, the first thing that happened was they scored a try.
Yeah, that's what he adds to the team, isn't it? It's just that experience and that game plan that he just runs off so easily and just does it so nicely. But that's why he's the class. That's why he's best in the world and the number 9 jumper. And people are going to hate me for saying that, but I've said it all along and easily is. But I was just looking at the tackle numbers here. It's ridiculous, isn't it? Dylan Hunt, 25 tackles. What else you got? Ty Warden in midfield got 16, 15 for Ash Dixon, 15 for Hamopo, 14 for Frizzell. Crazy numbers, just crazy. And none of the Blues actually got over 10. None of them got over 7. Mental.
Well, I was going to say the one that I loved was the fact that all of the starting forwards for the Highlanders made more tackles than any of the Blues. Yeah,
and that sums up the game, doesn't it? Of how the Highlanders played it and just forced the Blues' hand into what the game, how they wanted to play.
Absolutely, and a couple of things I think we should probably on the player stats that jump out from this. People have been crying out for Rieko Ioane to get back on the wing. He does this game, 18 runs for 110 meters, and he's the most distance carried by any player in this game. And so, yes, it's good to see him back there. That is where he is the most dangerous at the moment. But also his brother, Akira Ioane, someone that the Highlanders clearly had a plan to counter and to contain, and they did a fantastic job. 21 carries for 37 meters. That's just that. To be fair to him, this season we have seen him try become a much better work ethic this season than he's had before. He had to go on Friday, but the Highlanders, I say they had a plan and they cut him down.
Yeah, and he's probably been the big shining light too in this Blues team. There's not much else really of any positive note to come out of the Blues so far, but they pretty much cut down anything the Blues really offered. You see, there's not many running meters throughout the whole team, apart from Peter Feta got a little bit as well. But overall, a team like the Blues, you can
definitely had a good game when he came on as well, to be fair.
Oh, off the bench, I'm just looking at starters, but the Blues are a team you can kind of nail down, aren't they? Key guys that are going to make difference, especially if they're quite young midfield and the wing, Highland, Ledger, Faiani, guys like that. You can kind of contain them a bit easier than you can Rieko Ioane. Absolutely.
Another guy who I think was particularly disappointing in this game, one of the people who you want to be a leader in that Blues pack. He is an All Black. Patrick Tuipulotu made 3 tackles, missed 4. And that is just for someone who is supposed to be one of your leaders in that pack. There's been talk of him being of captaining the side at times, and that's just not good enough.
No, it's not what we expect from a leading player at all. But questions have been asked about him for quite some time, Super Rugby level. And are we ever going to see him in another black jersey again? I would really doubt seeing that again. But you'd expect better from guys, especially that have been capped at a higher level.
Yep, exactly. Any other comments about this one, or do you think it's time to put it to bed and let me mourn the loss against another game?
No, I'll let you be. But I mean, this was just a typical, almost, I don't know if I'll call it fully typical Highlanders display, but it's a very controlled Highlanders display. And I think they're very good with being able to rest Aaron Smith as well and get Kane Hemington some good time out there, which he showed he's getting up to this level now to be able to perform. But this is, I reckon, a good Highlanders side that is marching on quite nicely. That back line is just looking so good at the moment for the Highlanders. So off to South Africa. It's going to be interesting how they go.
They are looking good, and a difference that we've seen from the management this season that we saw in their winning season was in their winning season they would happily rest. They had 2 weeks of obligatory All Blacks having rests, and they rested all their All Blacks for 2 weeks, basically throwing away 2 games. This time we've seen them put Aaron Smith on the bench and do a bit more of a rotation to keep their players fresh, and that's good to see from the Highlanders. Is trusting their Make sure Patrick Hamilton's got Liam Sopoaga outside him to help him with that kind of stuff, rather than resting Aaron Smith, Ben Smith, Naholo, and Sopoaga all in the same game. Which, I think that's a much better approach from the Highlanders this year.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, definitely agree with that.
So then we went on to that to what I thought was a very surprising game. The Waratahs versus the Lions. The Lions have had a few poor games this season. I mean, they lost to the Blues at home. They only beat the Sunwolves by 2 at home. And then they made history against the Waratahs. This is the first time the Waratahs have ever been held to 0 points.
And it's the first time the Lions have ever held a team to 0 points as well. But it started off a brilliant weekend of Australian rugby, didn't it? Everyone on this side of Tasman will be sitting there and going, oh, you know, this is a great weekend for Australia. They were terrible, weren't they, the Waratahs? I mean, we've seen seasons of them where they've been so bad. And I think there's a little bit of hope, you know, seeing that they're actually getting all right. They're doing all right, doing pretty well against Australian teams, but they come up against the Lions, didn't they? And they just completely lost everything about them. I think this is a good weekend for South African hookers, as we'll probably talk about a bit more later on as well. But Malcolm Marx, phenomenal performance from him. He really took that game by the scruff of the neck. But I think it's hard to say that the Waratahs unlucky in patches, but I think they're unlucky in what they can control and what they couldn't control as well. We've seen that Quagga Smith try being actually lost the ball. Conversion was already over. Too bad, can't do anything about it. But so much that they could have changed and could have done better in that match that they really didn't do whatsoever as well. So, yeah, when the game's only 7-0 at halftime, you got to say you're definitely still in it. But to be dominated that sort of way and tactically as well, Naivoro, what were they thinking about him? Just completely not using him in the right sort of way. So, yeah, big question marks about the Waratahs, even more so. And it only takes 1 week, doesn't it, where they go from, hey, this Waratahs team's not so bad, and now we're all going, oh, Daryl Gibson, what are you doing, buddy?
Yeah, as you say, there are some serious coaching questions to be had here. You've got Naivoro, who has been on a 3 or 4 game stunning sort of form, scoring tries for fun, racking up 100-meter games at the last 2 games, playing out wide. And everyone's been saying over these last couple of games, oh, look, he breaks the game line. We need to get him in the game more. Let's play him more central. And Darren Gibson, unfortunately, hasn't stuck to his guns and kept Naivoro out wide. And he's listened to all those people and gone, that's a good idea. I'll bring him inside. And he did nothing because he kept running into players and he got tackled. And yes, he is a big guy. Yes, he'll bump one player off. But if there's 2 or 3 players there, they'll take him down. They're also big guys. They're not as big, but if he's running into forwards, he doesn't have the size. He's not at pace. B, he doesn't have the size differential, and it just doesn't work. Yeah, they needed to get him space and get the ball to him out wide. And
that's the thing. When he's got the space out wide, he can use his other abilities, which is his speed. Which he can, get around players as well as through players. He can, make a half tackle out of what would be a one-on-one situation, which is easier for him to break through. When he's just in the middle there, he's just swamped. And even if he somehow slithers away from one, he's got nowhere to go. And he was often just throwing the ball, say, you're the guy that does something, do it. And it's just an impossible task for him. So kind of feel sorry for him in a way because he did get thrown completely off the ramp, but it's going to be interesting to see where they go next. If they try and persevere with that. I noticed that Gibson talked a lot about Folau coming back. If you're not sick of Israel Folau already, then you're going to be getting more of him. But he's a bit of a mug, that guy now. I'm not too impressed with what he's been up to. But it's like deterring one problem with something completely different, and say, that's going to be a solution. So where they go, that's going to be interesting.
It is, and should we have a bit of fun at Folau's expense? Go on, let's. Why not? So wonderful. So Hugh, who joined me for the post-match reaction to this game from Green and Gold Rugby, lovely tweet out, which shows Curtly Beale stood by a Land Rover, and suddenly Curtly Beale has managed to join the Land Rover family. I wonder how suddenly there was the budget to afford Curtly Beale. Yes, Izzy is not driving around in such a nice big car anymore. And also the other one, for those of us, let's remember here, Izzy Folau is not about to go hungry. He's just been offered apparently a £750,000 contract by the Sale Sharks in the Aviva Premiership. Is the rumor. So it's going to be right. It's going to be so. Yeah, we'll see if he's going to take that up or not, or how much that is just agents having a bit of fun, or whether there's any truth in that one.
Imagine that. Imagine what happened. Imagine Australian rugby when that happens, because he is their go-to bailout. When it all turns to custard, it's just all on him, isn't it? That he is their ultimate bailout guy. If he goes, what are you going to have then? Reece Hodge bailing you out? Goodness me.
Well, if he doesn't go to the Euro Premiership, he's going to go to NRL anyway. Is the other one? But yes, we'll see. I'm not expecting Folau to stick around. I don't think he'll get offered a new contract at the end of this. He's just too much of a liability, and the sponsors just don't like him.
It's the thing. You're in that position, aren't you? Where you've got to be smarter than you are, in what you think. It's all well and good. He's allowed to think and have his opinion on what he wants, but he's got to be clever about how he portrays it and how he gives it out to public like that, because it's a sensitive world these days.
Yep, it is, and that's why Curtis Rona tweeted out support for him, and Curtis Rona goes to the same church as well. So, whilst I've not asked Curtis Rona on Twitter to what his opinion is on these sort of things, I could have a pretty good guess, I think, and I don't think I'll be a million miles wrong. But yeah, as you say, he keeps his mouth shut, and therefore he still is likely to have a contract and still be playing. Anyway, after that divergence, congratulations to the Lions. To Miller team is good. I was looking through the stats trying to say, okay, so where's the big stat that shows you why the Lions won this one? As you say, they managed to get to halftime 0-7 up, and then basically they just dominated that second half. The Waratahs spent 20%, only spent 20% of the time out of their own half in that second half. Territory was just totally dominated by the Lions there, and that's where they won it. A lot of the other stats aren't that dissimilar. Sure, the Tars had to make a couple more tackles, but nothing special. The Tars line-out didn't quite misfired at times, and they gave up a couple more penalties, but nothing that would suggest a nilling. This was, territory in that second half, and the stat that really summed this game up is 0-29.
Yeah, the big donut, isn't it? That's the big thing. But when I was looking through the stats, I thought the same. The territory, second half territory, that's just domination, isn't it? That's just control of the match. And that's just the Lions, the pack especially having a good time and controlling the game. So I was really impressed with what they offered, looking a lot better. A lot of question marks about them over the season. Are they that same team? Same thing, coach gone with them as well. But, it's the Lions. There's quality there. And come the end of the season, they're going to be there or thereabouts. And I do have to comment on Brett's comment in the chat there. Maybe too sensitive, the world these days. Couldn't agree more.
Yeah, maybe so. Also, another point that spotted during that game around coaching is the Tars had a 6-2 bench, and then Foley went off with a HIA. Suddenly, they're having to shuffle their entire back line around until he comes back, and it gets all messy. Yeah, that's a number of things went wrong in the coaching department in that game.
Well, I mean, that's Daryl Gibson, isn't it? I'm not being too sold on what he offers any of the teams. Dick's an assistant coach, you have to say, he's a pretty good record there, but he's a bit at sea with what he offers. And like you spoke about it earlier about people saying, this is with Naivaro, get him the ball more, get him this and that. He's a coach, not everyone watching, and that he's got to stand up a bit for himself. And just because someone says we should get Folau more high ball, that's what he does. Put Folau on the wing. That's what he does. He's very much a sheep coach, isn't he? With what people say. Yep,
no, agreed. And so we moved on from that to Saturday, where we had the Crusaders versus the Sunwolves. This one didn't quite go to plan, did it? I mean, obviously the Crusaders kicked off well. Got themselves 14-0 up after 8 minutes. Delaney hit a lovely gap and passed out wide to Crotty. Then we had a line-out maul. 14 points in 8 minutes. We're like, okay, can they score at more than a point a minute for the whole game? Big answer, no. The Sunwolves did really well and they got Little got in the corner to pull back some points. And then they kept it to, it was 14-5 at half-time. Right? Over half an hour of play where the Crusaders didn't score against the Sunwolves.
Yeah, and the Sunwolves went on an 11-point run when they were down by 14. So they definitely showed a lot of what the Sunwolves team can do. There's a lot of positive, I think, though, for the Crusaders, who have pretty big injury concerns coming back. I thought their scrum, especially with the return of Franks coming back, massive difference when he was on the field. Definitely changed the game completely in that aspect. But to say that the Crusaders needed that is really saying something about how the Sunwolves played. But I think a big leveler in this match was the weather, because it was pretty much domination was at the start. Then the heavens opened up and it changed the game, which surprised me, because I wouldn't have considered the Sunwolves a team that would have liked to play in that kind of weather, because they are a team that plays in Japan, in Africa, in Australia even. They don't play here too often in New Zealand, where the weather can do this to this sort of drastic measure. They're normally used to the hard ground, bit of sun, nice evenings, hot temperatures, on the beach. But not here. Not here. They got done with some bad weather and they adjusted remarkably well. Although both sides handled extremely well, given the conditions. And so I think impressive from my point of view, from what the Sunwolves offered. And like I said in the post-match thing, New Zealanders don't see the Sunwolves that often. They have this, what people think about them is that they aren't worthy to be in the competition. Plain and simply, that's what a lot of people think about them. This, I do hope, if people watch this game and they see that, Sunwolves aren't that bad, considering they've got 14 hospitals full of players, and they can still, come and put out a decent display. I thought it was quite impressive. 7 different nationalities in their starting team, and they can still come along and play with that continuity, combat the weather, adjust, adapt, and they played a really good job.
No, we should talk about the weather, shouldn't we? So, on 60 minutes, the rain came down and very quickly turned to hail. That looked pretty nasty and cold. And we had lightning going off, and I thought there's a good chance this game's going to get put on hold while the lightning goes away. But they kept on playing, and luckily it didn't get too close. It stopped after about 5 or 6 minutes. But for those 5 or 6 minutes, as you say, both teams instantly changed their game plan. Suddenly, they went from handling games to kicking game in the space of about 10 seconds. Some really good game management from both sides in this one. And it's not like Delaney's been around and seen this a few times, but as you say, I'm not sure some of the Japanese players will have had to put up with some of this. But it was, it was impressive and good play by both teams. The Sunwolves pulled this back to 14-11 after 50 minutes, but then the Dag came off, Franks came off. Players who are coming back from injury, probably getting tired by that stage. The bench came on, and we saw the depth of the Crusaders versus the Sunwolves, and the Crusaders just pulled away in the end. You're talking about how many players have been used. 43 players have been used by the Sunwolves, and I think they've finally settled down on their best 15. So we've seen some certain Brits, for example, who we thought was probably in their best 15, hasn't played in the last 2 or 3 games and was playing for Japan A. In a game in Auckland, I think it was the day before this one. So, I think it's Jamie Joseph, isn't it? Has settled down. We've got to remember this is his first season coaching this side, so he is still learning the ropes or getting used to Japan to a certain degree. That's we've not actually talked about stats, but twice as many running meters by the Crusaders. Just shows that they executed better than the Sunwolves, which you're going to expect. But the Sunwolves did manage 11 clean breaks, the same number as the Crusaders. Players you've mentioned, obviously Franks had a good game. Attacking wise, you're not going to expect too much because of the weather, but Matalele, 85 meters, and George Bridge with 70 meters. Those two shone with ball in hand in this game.
Yeah, I think the other thing that the Crusaders can put down to this result was just their professionalism in the way they go about the game. They're always a team that's the strongest in that last quarter as well, and they showed that time and time again as well, and especially tonight. But I think I'd still have to go back and credit the Sunwolves, because the way they played and tactically changing their defensive pattern as well around later on in the first half, of definitely speeding up the defense and shutting down the space that the Crusaders had as the weather started to change, definitely did change that match. to change how the Crusaders attacked and shut down the space they had, which was massive for them. Second rows for the Sunwolves, massive. James Moore, pretty sure an Australian, had a huge game. A big man who really led the team in the forward pack from the front. Alongside him, the South African Grant Hadding was amazing as well. But I think they got a good little mix of forwards in that team, which is generally where Japanese sides struggle with. So I was impressed with that. Lava Sajane as well, another one who was amazing. So different ability in there. And like you say, so many guys out as well that could change the match. But yeah, a lot of positive, I think, for the Sunwolves. And
obviously we should mention Little as well. They got the try, but also got through 13 tackles. They didn't miss any in that midfield. A rock that they can build. They can build around. So we followed that one up with the Reds versus the Chiefs. And the Reds were never in this one, were they? And this was just 0-24 at half time. The Chiefs has already scored 31 points before the Reds even got on the scoreboard. It was a bit one-way traffic.
Just continued on an amazing weekend of Australian rugby, didn't it? They just they're not in this match at all. Couldn't do anything right. Chiefs were just all over them like a naughty rag. There's nothing going their way at all. We talk about the Reds a lot, about the direction of their back play. There's more of that from them. But it's just discipline, handling, all those sorts of things is just the basics that they really don't do very well. 13 knock-on turnovers, things like that. Chiefs got 11 clean breaks, just 4. You can't really win too many games, especially when those 4 would have come in the last few minutes as well, and they got those couple of tries. But what I found a really interesting thing about this game, which I thought you might have a comment on as well, is the Caleb Timu try that was turned over when the referee saw it on the big screen. How often do you see the home team get a try like that turned over by watching? Normally it's the away team. I thought that was quite amazing that they showed that replay. I bet you it was unintentional as well, because he placed it against a post and lost it as he was putting it down, and they were lining up the conversion, and it got completely wiped. I've never seen a home team get pinged like that before, so I thought that was quite remarkable overall, but it was just a bad night for the Reds.
Major fail by Fox Sports, who are handling the replays. You've got to say, geez. Just some of the stats. This game was all over in the first half. Territory, 38% for the Reds, 62% for the Chiefs. As you say, 4 clean breaks to 11. 117 runs to 112 runs. So fairly even, but 327 meters to 518, which just shows you how much better they were at that. And one I didn't actually miss when I was making notes, but 22 turnovers conceded by the Reds compared to 14 by the Chiefs. Australian sides, especially the Chiefs and the Highlanders, thrive off turnover ball. If you're going to turn it over 22 times, some real problems. 2 players that did okay, as you say. Karevi got those 2 tries late on, 13 runs, 62 meters, and 2 from fullback also got through a chunk of work at 14 runs as well. One player who didn't have a great game was Fauli. 8 made 8 tackles, missed 5, which I thought I'd call that one out. Perhaps a tad harsh, but yeah, that's not the best tackling from him.
Yeah, I saw you marked that one down as a point to mention, but I found the way he actually played, he was very much that charging run out of the defensive line to smash people. And he did that. You saw that massive shot that he made on, who was it? I think it was the Reds, number 8. It might have been Timu as well. One of the big guys anyway. Just absolutely pulverized them. When you go with that sort of attacking defense, I guess there is quite often the chance that you do slip off people that are, poison stepping off the spot they catch the ball on. But you kind of got the comfort to be able to do that, don't you? He is a player that is very inexperienced, but a bit eccentric as well, I guess you could say it, the way he plays. He can do the amazing, but he can be a bit behind the ball as well at the same time. So, yeah, a bit expected from him, but he did guide around the back line all right with that team.
The Chiefs were awesome. Retallick was great. Yep, Retallick's having a fantastic season. And also the Canadian guy, I've gone blank.
Ardon.
Who was next to him as well, also played, has been playing well. The loss of DMAC after 20 minutes could have derailed this Chiefs side, but it didn't. Marcy came on and did a decent job, and everyone else stepped up. Now that was a head knock that saw D-Mac stay off. So I personally hope he doesn't come back next week and takes time off to properly rest. I know others say, "Oh, trust the doctors. Doctors know best." Yeah, no, I'm not in agreement with that one. I think it should be mandatory. So there we go.
I hope he takes another week off as well, because I think he needs a bit of a break. He needs to reassess. He wasn't on the field that long, and we did that post-match with the Crusaders Sunwolves game, and I just caught the start of it, and the first thing I saw was him running sideways, a couple of steps backwards, sideways. I think he just needs a bit more directness in his play, especially if he's going to be at 10. You're replacing one great Southland player with another great Southland player with Marty there as well, so it's okay. He'll be fine.
For those of you who don't know, Steve comes from the south of goes from the south of England. South of New Zealand. Jeez, wake up, Mr. Baines. No, people are going to stalk me now. They know I said my name. Comes from Invercargill. So it's cold down there.
What's that got to do with anything?
Everything. I don't like the cold. Anyway, so we headed off into South Africa, Bulls versus Rebels, and Bulls 28-10. I must admit, I've only seen highlights of this one, because when I looked at the stats and compared that to the highlights, I was like, I think I saw Murphy once during the highlights, and yet somehow he got through 22 runs for 121 meters. So did he have a good game? Because he didn't get there was no showreel stuff.
I find it hard to say that anyone in a Rebels jersey had a good game, because that match was more the Bulls just couldn't finish all the gifts that the Rebels were throwing at them, because the Rebels were just atrocious. I don't know if the stats really reflect it. Knock-ons is only 10-8, things like that, but they just could not link anything together. There was no continuity in their play, and they looked like old Rebels, the Rebels from the past. Conceded 23 turnovers, 15. It's not the worst in the world. It's not massive, but the Bulls were just all over them from the start to the finish, and they just had no answer. There was no creative ability in that Rebels team. There was no excitement. The match was just a bit of a drab, really. I think the Bulls just controlling it in the pack and just dominated.
Yeah, it's a bit more of what we saw against the Hurricanes in the opening game in that first half, with the second rows bashing through and offloading to each other, which was a joy to watch. But 21 clean breaks. You nearly made more clean breaks than they scored points. Shows, as you say, their finishing wasn't what it should have been. They left a lot of points out there.
Oh yeah, and you look at defenders beaten as well, 39-21. That's almost twice as many. So they're just controlling the game. But they could have easily been 60 points to 10.
And my favourite one here, tackling stats. Rebels 57 made out of an attempt of 96, 59% tackling. Yeah, you deserve to get thumped. And whilst they were thumped on the game, maybe in the game, they weren't thumped on the scoreboard, which means that the South African sides, both them and perhaps the Lions. Well, actually, the Lions got the job done. But when we get on to the next one, they're not the only team to have left points out on the pitch. But my favourite topic in the Super Rugby, jerseys. What is the referee doing in purple when the Blues are playing in dark blue? And he looked like the Rebels. He looked like an extra Rebels player on the pitch. And that must be confusing for the players.
And it must be a South African thing too, because I noticed in the Sharks Stormers game, very much the same. He was wearing the same sort of purple referee's kit, which wasn't the greatest either, considering you got a team playing in the black, the Sharks era. So very much confusion. And I noticed on that game too, with the Sharks game, next one, he actually got bumped into a few times as well. So just looking like another player in that team. But you got to ask the questions. How does someone organise that and say, yes, we'll go off this kit? It's money, sponsorship, I guess. So this is what you're wearing. Go ref.
It is, and you're right. The country that the game's played in decides which colour the ref wears, and we've had some wonderful yellow kits in New Zealand for the refs, which clashes so well and just hides in nicely against the Hurricanes' yellow kits, which they're different shades of yellow. but it's not a million miles different, is it? Let's be honest. The Australia seem to have a better idea of putting him in green because no other team plays in green, so that kind of works. But yeah, both New Zealand and South Africa have got some ref kit issues going on. And yep, you started talking about it. Yep, the ref got bumped into quite a lot wearing purple in the Sharks versus the Stormers. The Sharks team, there was some very selfish play early on with wingers, particularly thinking, "Oh, I'm going to go all the way," and not passing the ball. Why the Sharks were only, were trailing 3-7 at half time, I just don't get. They were dominant, weren't they?
How was that game only 3-7 is probably the bigger question. So many chances. And it kind of carried on from that Bulls-Rebels game as well. It was very similar. I was watching that first half and I was like, I'm kind of regretting staying up till 3 o'clock in the morning to watch this. Second half changed drastically, which I was very, very happy about. But yeah, a lot of points left, 3-man overlaps on one fullback, and you just hold on to the ball. Yeah, it's a bit silly rugby, isn't it? When you got players doing like that. But yeah, they come right in the second half, which I was very happy about. But a lot of points, a lot of points left out in this match, which is a shame because I thought in the end overall, I thought it was quite a good spectacle and some real good standouts when they actually got their two sides. Both of them got running pretty well in the second half.
Yeah, 19 clean breaks by the Sharks to only 7 clean breaks by the Stormers. And it took them until the 72nd minute to get in the lead. Sure, they kicked the first 3 points, I think, and led by 3-0. But basically, they were trailing this whole game until the last 10 minutes. And yet they dominated the clean breaks. The Sharks were making 77% of their tackles compared to 86 by the Stormers made 77% of their tackles compared to 86 by the Sharks. The Stormers were, they had gaps all over the place, but the Sharks just couldn't score.
It's been the story of this season, hasn't it, though? They've been like this all year. The Stormers are well and truly in this game. And to be fair, the yellow card ultimately did decide this match. When Dewald Divanaka went for 10 minutes, that was really a big changing point in this game. The tries, though, just phenomenal tries in that second half. The Raymond Rule try was just ridiculously good that Stormers scored just before half-time. And then I think it was the Lakundo arm try that was set up, a little grubber through. Mapimpi picked it up, and Mapimpi was phenomenal in that second half. Just so electric. The king, he is the original king of Super Rugby. The man is a legend. He'll ever live on in the heart. But he was brilliant. Arm had a good match as well, pretty steady. But those tries, a couple of those tries were brilliant. The offload between the Dupree brothers, when Robert Dupree gave it to Jean-Luc Dupree to score that try, that stuff is game-changing. And you've got to think about it for South Africa to have a guy, if they do go with him in the number 10 jumper for the Springboks, that can offload and take on a line and take out 2 defenders and offload to centres, which we know the Islanders, the guys like him, the Jesse Creels that do run, but if they run in space, they're a massive danger. And you've got to fly half they can take out defenders like he can and put the centres into space. They could be onto something.
They could, and if they go to Bosch at the back as well, I mean, he's attacking. He's got that little bit of magic to get through gaps as well. He's not the biggest of players, but 8 runs for 88 meters tells you that he gets into space and makes that, because that wasn't just catching and running at backyards meters either. He got himself up into the line. So yeah, and obviously having brothers that know each other so well, playing together. I mean, let's think through some Barretts back home who sort of seem to be on the same wavelength as well. So yeah, missed opportunity here by the Sharks. They could have come away with this with a try bonus point quite comfortably. But
I think they're lucky to come away with the win in the end.
But yeah, exactly. They were, but that's through butchering opportunities rather than because the Stormers were so good.
Yeah, I'll give you that one.
So then we went into Sunday, and the Brumbies hosted the Jaguares. Now, the Jaguares, who travel so much, travel more than any other team in Super Rugby, and yeah, basically are no good on the road apparently, except they've won 2 on the trot now in Australia, 20-25 in this game.
Well, let's say it again. It continued a brilliant weekend of Australian rugby, didn't it? Oh, these Australian teams are so woeful. When they're good, they're okay. When they're bad, they are just so horrible to watch. But you got to give it to Jaguares here. They come out of the guns very good. They scored some early points, and they kind of played what we talked about with the Highlanders earlier on. They come out, they got that lead, and then they put the ball in the Brumbies' court and said, bring it on. They gave them the chance to do it. The Brumbies' big issues here, really like the way Hawera plays an open play. He pretty much set up the tries for the Brumbies. Little grubber through that I think Tom Banks scored from one of those, and he set up 2 of their tries. Really good on hand. He's pretty solid. From the tee, they have issues. They have big issues. They leave a lot of points out there on the paddock, the Brumbies, and that ultimately, you add a couple of conversions and a penalty or something in that, and they've won that game. And that's what they throw away. That's what they leave out there. Contrasting, you've got a guy like Sanchez, who I think had a brilliant game. And he's got so much talent.
He may have, but off the tee, he had a shocker as well. So
yeah, they both did.
Yeah, Herrera was 50% off the tee. Sanchez 57%. He made one more kick, I think, than Herrera did. He made 2 more, but I think he had, probably had. And that ended up being the difference between his 2 sides with those 2 kicks. But it felt like bigger than that. It didn't feel like it was just came down to kicks. The Jaguares were the better team of the day.
Yeah, and they made the Brumbies play for everything they had to get too. But they just have these guys that can break a game. Like I've mentioned every time I talk about this time, Emiliano Buffelli. He's just a brilliant player. And it was really nice to see De La Fuente come to the party for once. I love this kid. He's a great player, brilliant player. And to see him finally get some points on there and actually make an impact to the Jaguares team, I think is only good for them. He is really one at that next sort of level that can change a game and can control a game as well. So great. This is amazing for the Jaguares. A lot of talk about how this is the team finally evolving to that level that we all expect them to be at. Sure, it's only the Brumbies, but yeah, it's good. Great for them. Wins on the road where they have to spend a lot of time. Key guys doing the good things right. And when you got a start guy, Buffelli, man of the match every week, just give him the trophy straight away.
And a yellow card as well.
But that's why he's so good, though. he come back from that card, I think, more passionate and more determined than anything. And that was a game changer right there. That was a big difference in their match.
He did as well. Another player I want to call out is Orlando in that 13 channel. We've talked about players, about that 13, the player in that 13 jersey sort of running the defence. And we've talked about that previously with players like Conrad Smith, for example. Orlando in this game got through 16 tackles and didn't miss one. Now there's a player who's getting those lines right, organising that defence really well. Fuente inside him, 8 tackles, none missed. Between the 2 of them, they just shut down so much from this Brumbies attack. You got to no, I'm well impressed by them. They did survive that yellow card very well. I don't think I think they scored a try during that time, so they won the yellow card 0-7. And for a team that can lose their heads under those situations, that's a massive that's a big sign. Probably more important than anything else in this game was how they didn't let their heads drop. They didn't get upset by that, and they played through it. And I say they won the yellow card period 0-7.
Yeah, I think a big difference that makes them too is their position in the game at the time when they get the cards as well. If they are trailing or struggling or not quite with the match, that just hurts them even more. The fact that they were right in this one and they had the control, it made it a bit easier for them. Plus, it wasn't in the forwards, so they could compact the game a bit, shut it down, and try and control it a bit more in an area that they know. That probably helped them as well. Losing a forward, it doesn't matter what sort of style rugby you play, losing a forward is always going to hurt you a little bit more when you can't get any ball. It's going to affect your rucks, it's going to affect your set piece, it's going to affect everything. A back, you're probably going to get away with a little bit more. And another thing in the comments people were saying about have the Jaguares ever gone a full 80 minutes without a yellow card? They're not actually the most yellow carded team this year. It is the Bulls and the Rebels who sit atop with 5. The Jaguares are second equal with the Sharks, Stormers, Blues, and Crusaders, who all have 4. Stat for you.
The stat man. Jeez, and I like my stats. But it was 10-13 at that stage when he got yellow carded. So it was hardly like the Jaguares were sort of dominating or clearly in the lead. And by scoring that try, they got themselves 2 points up. The Brumbies absolutely butchered that time. They kicked out on the full and gave up the ball. It's like, when you've got a player up, make the opposition play. Don't give them territory and the ball. And that was just some appalling play by the Brumbies. I thought Penny got a bit lucky. He got over, but I thought he should have played given it to the player out wide. I thought he could easily have another bit more selfish play for that try by the Brumbies to get themselves back into it. But yeah, to be fair, he did get the points.
I'm interested in your thoughts of Kyle Godwin being possibly the most overrated Australian player in the backs for the Brumbies. I've never seen this kid do anything good. He's held in such high regard. And you look through this and it's like, what does he offer this team? I'm not quite sold on him.
He's got a left peg, hasn't he? But
meh.
Kicking option. But yeah, he was supposed to be this new guy who was going to go forth and play for the Wallabies the next 10 years. And he's only had one good season and he's been poor for the last couple. Not a surprise that he's heading off to Europe after this season.
Well, I think for Australian rugby purposes, good, because they do hold him and play him in games. Regular starter. He doesn't seem to offer anything. Well,
I'd suggest that the Brumbies were made a mistake in this game by underestimating the Jaguares and resting Leofano for this game. I think they perhaps they didn't put out their full strength side, and that came back to bite them.
Yeah, I can understand that against the Sunwolves teams like that, but the Jaguares are a really good side on paper, and if they turn up, they're good. They will match most teams in the competition. That's what you have to offer. A lot of other teams, yeah, they'll be there 80% to what a normal side or a top-level side would be, like the Sunwolves. They'll get to the Crusaders, but ultimately they're not going to play that full 100% matchup to really take them on. The Jaguares can. They can play that. They have the ability. And if they do turn up, if they, like say, don't drop their heads, if they get the rub of the green a few times, they will beat pretty much anyone in the competition.
Yep, they are definitely a decent side, as you say. How about this for a theory as to why they're suddenly playing well? The last 2 years, the Argentinian team has been picked purely from players in Super Rugby or playing in Argentina, which effectively means the Jaguares are automatically in the national side. With the Super Rugby coming up, they've relaxed that, and now they're picking players from anywhere in the world for the rest, up and including the Rugby World Cup. Has that perhaps focused the players' minds a bit more, that they actually there's more competition for their places? They're not automatic Pumas now.
Yeah, well, that has to make a bit of a difference, doesn't it? Because that puts pressure on your position. It's the way it was. I guess they could have thought they've made the squad. They're playing in this Jaguares team. They'll just wait until the international season starts. Now they can't do that. So yeah, it's probably got a bit of an input to them. I'd possibly say maybe a bit down to the coaching staff changes as well at the beginning of the season. Has had a bit of an input to them. Probably a bit more disciplined, a bit more structured, a bit more focused. But yeah, having that pressure, knowing that you've got to perform, does make a massive difference. And we see it everywhere. I mean, it happens here in New Zealand. Look at Martin Nonu. God. He's the guy that needed Super Rugby pressure to perform. Or yeah, he'll just always be rubbish.
Oh, dear. Well, yeah, see, there's Ben Darwin runs a analytical company called Game Line Analytics. One of their theories is around connectivity. And he said, yeah, if you see Nonu's really poor seasons when he played for the Highlanders, when he played for the Blues, he was playing amongst players he just didn't know as much. Whereas as soon as he got into the All Blacks, where he was back next to Conrad Smith and next to, how can I forget the best player in Carter, between Carter and Smith, two players he'd been playing with for the best part of 10 years. funny enough, he was good again because he knew, and he knew what they were going to do. They knew what he was going to do, and it worked. But for the Blues and the Highlanders, yeah, it was never. He was always amongst players. He didn't know. In our environments, he didn't know, and he didn't perform.
Yeah, good excuse for him, I guess. But anyone else wouldn't be so lucky. They'll just be dropped, wouldn't they? I mean, if it was, you put a guy in a similar position, I don't know, Anton Lienert-Brown moved to the Highlanders and started playing like rubbish, he'd be gone.
Really?
He wouldn't get that free pass.
Sonny Bill Williams moved to the Blues and played fantastic.
Well, he's just like Martin Ono, isn't he? Doesn't matter what he does. He's at the beach having a drink and spending time with his kids.
Well, there you go, folks. You're getting a little insight as to what you'll see from the unofficial All Blacks podcast when we bring that one out. In the coming month or so, if I can get my act together. So that's the kind of stuff you're going to get from us. Anyway, come on, we've overrun. It's been an absolute pleasure as always, Steve. Let people know where they can find all your fantastic rugby content and get in touch with you during the week.
You know by now that if it's a video involving me, it always goes way over time by miles. You can get hold of me, Cornflakes Cribs, all you need to know. You can find me on Twitter, find me on YouTube. We've got rugby videos, we've got rugby games, we've got predictions, we've got all sorts of stuff. We've even got Paul on there from time to time as he falls further down my Super leaderboard. But yeah, we've got all sorts of rugby stuff coming. No, he's still second, don't worry. But yeah, come check us out, say hi. Weekends always a good time on Twitter. Lots of discussions going on there, lots of referees getting paid out, a lot of players getting criticised. So it's all good and fun. Come join.
Yep. One of the good things about us not being official media and not having any press access is they can't revoke that from us if we say bad things about them. So, hey, you get the honest truth here.
Which I do a lot.
So I've been Paul, the guy behind Driving Maul. You know what to do. Hit that red button down below to subscribe. Hit the bell so you get notifications of every single video I produce. There's my face there. There's a box there as well with my latest video. Also, subscribe on your favorite podcasting app for 5-star reviews. And also, if you didn't know, something I haven't mentioned for a while now, it's down below in the notes, is a link to my newsletter. Every Thursday, I send out an email with links to all of my wonderful stuff. So get in there. Also, look out for some special stuff about American rugby and also the Euro Premiership as well. A little hint as to a couple of things that are going to come up. And enjoy whatever rugby you are watching.